Trump just issued a strong warning to the Iranian terrorist regime. In a video, he said, Iran's largest bridge collapses and will never be used again. Much more is yet to come. It's time for Iran to make a deal now, before it's too late, and there's nothing left of what could still become a great country. Lara, we're about to watch the video. See Iran's largest bridge. It's just collapsing. What kind of warning is that?
Well, actually, this is something we've never really seen before. The way the president used videos and images of all these different attacks that the United States carried out in Iran, in my opinion, was really very impactful. I don't remember another president doing that, but when you see it, you see it. The power of the United States Armed Forces, the consequences of not coming to the negotiating table, and the total destruction of a country that will continue. I think it's been really impressive to see how the president has continued to send warnings and post videos like this. I think it's quite skillful,
said Harris. I'll bomb you back to the Stone Age. If you don't come to negotiate and end this, that's what will happen.
You know, something caught my attention, and it's important to know this because today the IDF also hit the financial center through which Iran largely pays for its army. It's essential to know this happened 2 hours ago. The president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, sent a letter this week, and I found it fascinating. He wants people to see them differently, he says. Despite its historical and geographical advantages at various times, Iran has never, in its modern history, chosen the path of aggression, expansion, colonialism, or domination. He goes on to say, and despite having military superiority over many of its neighbors, Iran has never started a war. They attacked Dubai, they attacked all of these, they started a war. Despite the tension between the United States, Israel, and Iran, the Iranians decided to attack their neighbors.
Iran has a choice: hand over the uranium, end the ballistic missile program, and control its proxies.
They've already said no to all of that several times because they're obsessed with nuclear weapons. And as we've learned from this regime, when they say death to America, they mean it. They take measures and actions. That's why it's intolerable for them to possess nuclear weapons and the missile shield like an umbrella to protect a nuclear program. The Israelis do an exceptional job with us. In that sense, we have the support of Gulf Arab states. Unfortunately, many of our traditional allies have been of no help at all. Even after we found out that Iran lied about possessing missiles capable of reaching almost all of Europe, we have NATO allies preventing our aircraft from flying over while we try to defeat this regime's nuclear program. It's very disturbing for Americans. I'm a supporter of NATO, but when I look at the French and the Spanish, I'm especially disappointed in Italy. Some Americans will start to distrust this alliance if that's how they behave.
Rosianne, this image is very powerful. This is the biggest bridge in Iran, and it's on fire. As a NATO member, I see Iran as the biggest global threat, in my view, allied with China and Russia. So why not take action and support the Iranian people's uprising?
Well, because the Iranians have been sending missiles everywhere, and maybe they're afraid for their own countries. But, you know, what about their boats and ships? But last night, the president issued a warning. He said they will strike Tehran with extreme force in the coming weeks, and the president is following through on what he said last night.
Yes, Harris. And we see the tangential action of Israel's defense forces alongside the United States. I mean, together, they form a dominant force.
And then those two roaring like lions. In the case of Israel and the United States, there are no disagreements between them in terms of what the region needs to be when both of them withdraw. That means neither of them will be able to obtain a nuclear weapon. That's the decisive factor. There is no disagreement. Israel, however, faces an existential struggle that's a bit different from that of the United States, precisely because of its proximity to this deadly enemy. And so when you see those missiles and drones clashing, swarming, people in Tel Aviv, as Jonathan Hume rightly said, are spending a lot of time in bomb shelters. They are giving up a lot of freedom and getting hurt in some of these situations, but they understand that all of this is necessary. I pray for them. It's Jewish Passover, it's Easter. The enemy hates us because of our beliefs. This is completely out in the open, but we're hitting them really hard, doing exactly what Trump said.
Lara, I was intrigued by your comment about using videos of President Trump. You know him, and it's the art of the deal. He's a negotiator. What he does and puts out always sends a clear message to the regime of terror.
Well, you can talk about something, but when you see it with your own eyes, it hits differently. And that's why I think this is important. This is important for Iran, and it's also important for our other adversaries around the world, because you want to talk about what the United States of America can do. Take a look at this video. Watch all the videos he posted of the bombs falling, the explosions, of us targeting something basically the size of a fingernail, our U.S. Army. It's really impressive. This carries a lot more weight when you see it this way. I just find this so impressive because, again, we've never seen something like this happen. We've never had a president like this willing to do this kind of thing. I hope all of this is for the best, for the whole world, the best for our people and for the rest of the world. And going back to what you were saying about the allies, this president has already commented that he is disappointed, especially with the NATO allies. He also spoke last night about the fact that people who depend on the Strait of Hormuz to get their oil need to take action. Now is the time. We don't need this here in the United States. They need to act and do something about it. I thought his speech last night was powerful and sent a message. This video now reinforces that.
Guy, and it would be a failure on our part not to mention that he mentioned the 13 heroes who fell during this operation. One of these young men had 7-month-old twins. He had another small child. I mean, these are heroes who gave their lives, and President Trump takes this very seriously and wants to finish the job.
Yes, and he spoke movingly about the final return of the remains of these heroes and meeting the families during this grieving process. War is a terrible thing. I know we are proud of what the armed forces are accomplishing. There have been a huge number of achievements in just 1 month, despite what the media has been saying since day one. But those of us who support this also need to recognize the cost and the honor involved.
The president justified the military operation, detailing the urgency of the Iranian nuclear threat, framing the short-term increase in energy prices as something temporary and stating that the American economy would be able to absorb this impact. And although he described this conflict as almost over, there was also an implicit threat of escalation, leaving open the question of whether he could send ground troops, or if victory can be declared without removing Iran's stockpiles of enriched uranium. Compilage.
I can say that we are about to complete all of the United States military objectives soon. We are going to hit them extremely hard. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will take them back to the Stone Age where they belong.
The president stated that he is negotiating with a more reasonable regime, but listed targets including all of Iran's energy infrastructure in case there is no agreement. Analysts say that this was the ideal speech to gain support. The Wall Street Journal wrote, "The media coverage in Zawara has been so negative that Iran may believe it is winning. But Trump promised a devastating war if they do not abandon their nuclear and terrorist ambitions. He made no offer of a ceasefire. Trump asked the countries dependent on oil from the strait to buy from Zilhaussena and develop the courage to protect the critical route." The president did not criticize NATO nor announce the withdrawal of ZUA from the alliance, although he suggested yesterday that the situation was irreconcilable. The Finnish president, Alexander Stubb, posted, "I spoke with Donald Trump. A constructive discussion and exchange of ideas about NATO, Ukraine, and Iran. Problems should be solved pragmatically." It is not clear if this conversation may have prevented some harsh words from the president directed at NATO. Folks.
And meanwhile, Jack, Italy and Spain have banned the use of their air bases. Macron said militarily, "We will not win. The United Kingdom is trying to organize itself, but there is no support on our side."
Yes. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is leading a virtual summit today with 35 countries to try to build some kind of consensus on military or diplomatic efforts to reopen the strait. Obviously a response to the strong pressure from President Trump, but did you hear Secretary Rubio say on Hannity the other night, if these countries don't allow the U.S. to use those bases when necessary, NATO is unilateral and the troops are in Europe for local defense, not for Iran's interests. That's the message from the White House. When the Secretary General comes next week to see President Trump, presumably they'll talk about this in great detail.
Yes, I think there's a big difference between using our bases, which we helped build, and not helping at all with the mission. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you. They should realize that, because they will certainly say that there is a treaty approved by the Senate and Congress, but there is only one commander-in-chief. The treaty may exist, but the president commands the armed forces, so do they really think they're going to command the troops to go in there? No way. What's also interesting is that today the United Arab Emirates is going to the United Nations to ask for a condemnation from the Security Council for the closure of the strait. So our allies in NATO are not helping us. Eastern nations, but the Gulf states are saying it's illegal. And now the UN sees this illegal behavior by Iran as a big problem.
Is it a realignment? Yes.
Yes, now with Jonathan Hunt, who is live in Tel Aviv as Iran fires missiles at the moment Israel celebrates Passover. Jonathan?
Brian, good morning to you. Israel was fully expecting and prepared for a barrage of Iranian missiles to mark the beginning of the Jewish holiday of Passover. And that's exactly what happened. Iranian missile launchers fired missile after missile towards central, southern, and northern Israel throughout the night and all day Wednesday. And some of those missiles, along with the cluster bombs attached to them, managed to get through, causing damage on the ground and dozens of injuries. Meanwhile, the shelling by the U.S. and Israel against Iran continues, with flames burning near Isfahan, Iran. This is the site of one of Iran's main nuclear reactors. But despite the shelling they are facing, Iranian authorities seem increasingly defiant. There is no talk of a ceasefire, as President Trump said Iran would be seeking. Instead, Iranian authorities say they are prepared to continue this war for as long as necessary. Listen here.
They ignore our vast strategic capabilities, do not think that they have destroyed our strategic missile centers, long-range and precision drones, modern air defense, electronic warfare systems, and specialized equipment. Because of such assumptions, you will only deepen the quagmire you have gotten yourselves into.
The U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, for example, told all American citizens that they should leave Iraq immediately.
They've already been told that before. Thank you, because there are Iranian militias operating in Iraq. One of the benefits of a weakened Iran will be that the Iraqis will have control over their own country because they have infected the entire northern part.
President Trump said something crucial yesterday, something that may have gone unnoticed, but it's important to me. It was when he said, "They made mistakes and I'm fixing them." I believe he was referring to his predecessors. Deep down, we agree that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. What did his predecessors do, and what is Obama undoing? He stated, if Iran complies with the nuclear deal, they will receive $56 billion. So how did that work out? And what about the $400 million in cash that was sent over? It didn't work. It was a failed nuclear deal under Biden, and the $6 billion in unfrozen Iranian assets, they mobilized allies, and October 7th happened. We've already tried that way. It didn't work. And President Trump is correcting the mistakes and trying to ensure the safety not only of the United States, as you said, but of the whole world.
Besides, it's not the first time he's negotiated with Iran. Remember, he spent 4 years in the White House dealing with Iran, followed by a 4-year break. So it's not like we're starting from scratch. The president understands how problematic they are and is also urging the world. Look, we don't need Middle Eastern oil, but many others do and should seek their own independence. Over to the president.
Now we are totally independent from the Middle East, and even so, we are there to help. We don't need to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we are there to help our allies. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gas prices here in the country. This short-term increase was entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching insane terrorist attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries, which have nothing to do with the conflict. This is further proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They would use them and use them quickly. This would lead to decades of extortion, economic suffering, and instability. Worse than we can imagine, the United States has never been so well prepared economically to face this threat.
It's worth noting that we just showed about a minute of the guy, the Iranian version of Baghdad Bob, talking a bunch of nonsense about Iran. It's going well. We didn't find their missiles. We have almost everything they were hiding. You just need to understand their perspective. The guy lost 250 commanders, both political and military, just in 2026, not to mention the dozens killed in their beds by the Israelis and others lured to a fake meeting, and then the Israelis blew them up. If anyone understands what's happening in there, it's Israel. And we just heard about the assassination of one of the chancellors and his family. They can say whatever they want, but the Speaker of the House and the minister are only still alive. Because the Pakistanis asked us to ask the Israelis not to kill them since we already had the coordinates.
The Ayatollah would have left on the first day, in just one day.
The person who said the famous phrase, "Death to America," said it was not a slogan, but a policy.
Certainly, yes, that was the policy.